All right, welcome everybody. We are here with Scott Wilson. And, I like to brag up my clients a lot, but honestly, this guy, it has been incredible to see his growth. So he started out, working a crazy, crazy amount of hours, flipping the burgers in his truck all the time. He was in the truck constantly, didn't have time for anything else. But guess what? After working with us, and this year, his sales are up 70%. That is 70. And get this, he actually doesn't have to work at all in his food truck. Now, I just want to share this because a lot of food trucks don't believe they can do this, but he's running 100 G's every month out of his food truck, which is, that's hard to do for some restaurants, just brick and mortars, but to do it from a food truck is incredible. So anyway, we've got Scott here and his coach Camille, so we wanted to dive in. And so Scott, tell us a little bit about, what were things like last year? What were things like before we started working together? Just tell us a little bit of what business and life was like.
Yeah, so we're in our fifth season now, fourth or fifth season. And my food truck, we're at a location. We're located in a Home Depot. It's a very, very busy location. So I'm very blessed. We have a ton of traffic that go through there, and I've always been blessed with great staff. But the volume of traffic that we do, and we're talking about like 30,000 orders a year or 9 months, because we open from mid-March till the end of November. We'll do 30,000 orders of food during that time.
Okay.
And so we are always busy. And what I found is that I always had to be on site because my staff, as good as they are, things just never seemed to run the same when I wasn't there. They ran great when I was there, but as soon as I kind of turned away, things didn't get washed, things didn't get done, things didn't get put away properly. So I felt that I always had to be on site just to keep this well-oiled machine oiled. And then, of course, there's still payroll and all the administrative tasks that have to get done after hours. So that added, so we're open about 80 hours a week. And that would add another 30 hours to my day, to my week. So I was working somewhere around 110 to 120 hours a week.
Okay. So it sounds like a pretty...
My wife. Yeah, I didn't see family,
Yeah.
So it was frustrating in that, and there really was no end in sight. And my staff, God bless them, they're awesome, but it just wasn't working the way I thought it should work.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty crappy schedule. Not gonna lie here. So
I'm not gonna lie. When I proposed this whole idea of a food truck to my wife, I said to her, listen, Tanya, I'm not gonna let this consume me like every other project I've ever done. And I promise. And it's been 4 years and I haven't kept that promise. And so, it's time to keep that promise.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about what are some of the big things that, we've worked on together that have really helped, or what are some of the wins? Obviously we talked about the revenue being so much more, and obviously you not being in the truck, but what are some things that we've worked on that have really made a difference for you and your business?
Probably the two things. The first one is hiring processes, right? From A to Z, how to create those proper ads to get the right people applying, and how to sift through those applicants to get the right employees, how to hire the rock stars, how to identify the rock stars, because in the beginning they're all strangers and you really don't know what they are. So you showed us ways and techniques to really dig into the core of these people and what they're really all about, and how to identify the ones that can really move our business forward. So that was number one, is finding the right people. I have 13 staff now. I've got more staff than I've ever had in my existence, and as a result, I don't have to work and flip burgers and make things. I love doing that, but my time is way better spent somewhere else. So we have these great staff, but great staff are, if they're not trained properly and they don't know what they need to do or how they need to do it or when they need to do it, it's not going to run the same as when I'm there to direct them. So the second thing that ownership really taught me how to do is how to create these accountability lists and task lists and training, and really get the staff up to a standard where they can stand on their own and run with it, and give them the baton and off they go.
Yeah,
and that's where we are right now.
Okay, awesome. So I want to turn over to Camille for a second. So Camille, in your journey with Scott, the day-to-day grind, making sure that things, are on the right track. What are some things that you've noticed that have been really good about Scott, or some changes that you've seen from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think the biggest change was allowing the people that he's putting in place to take leadership, to allow them to actually sit into their roles. So Scott brought on a manager, Lindsay, this year, and she has been, I think, a vital component to the success of what's happening. And he would sit in his truck on the calls and he'd be like, we have a pager in case they need help. And he never gets called because he put the right person in the place and he's trusting them to do their job.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. So Scott, I know we were talking right before this call and we were saying how your workload is still, pretty hefty, only it's changed now because instead of being in the truck, because you used to do, 50 or 60,000 and now you're pushing 90, 100 plus. So, what you spend most of your time now is actually sourcing, food and supplies. And so here's the question I want to ask you is, do you think it would have been possible last year doing things the way you were, before you met us, before you made any changes? Do you think it would be possible for you to do the volume of revenue that you were doing right now had you not made these changes?
Absolutely not. I'd either be dead or divorced, one or the other. Not a chance. I mean, I still work, a ton. My days start at 6 a.m. But I do eat supper at home most nights.
Okay.
Last year I might eat supper once a week at home and see my wife once a week and see the family. But now it's just about every night I'm at home, and it's just a lot more. It's way better for family.
Yeah, so. I was gonna say, should we bring her on the call and ask if it's better that you're home or not? But I don't know. We don't want to get into that. I love seeing this because that was one of the things that you said to me on one of our first calls is like, I would actually like to be home for dinner. I would actually like to be able to take a vacation with my wife. And I know even in the past, I know that your relationship to profits as well, because you have to make enough in your peak period to survive all winter, right? So
that's right.
I know that you were worried about, not knowing if you were able to make as much. I know that the profits, you were concerned about that. Whereas now the revenue, is there. So that's the big thing, right? That changes everything. And so, I think that for you, this is literally life and business changing. And so here's the next thing I want to ask is, what is next for you? Now that you've gotten here, now that the revenue's there, where has your mind shifted to? What are you thinking about right now?
Yeah. So, things are going so well and the staff have it. My family, we got a big family weekend planned up at the cottage, and I would never have been able to do that last year.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be up there this weekend, and the crew got it, no problem at all. And we are figuring out ways that I can step away from the trailer even more and more and more. So we still have some limitations right now, just because of the way the business is set up and the location and the nature of a food truck and whatnot.
Yep.
But we're thinking in ways of how can we duplicate this, but not duplicate the effort. So that's what we're really working on is how are we going to get set up for another location next year. The staff are so excited about a second location, and they're fired right up.
Beautiful.
So they're all on board, and now I've just got to get my mindset going. On how to solve some of these problems. And they're going to come to me in the shower. They're going to come to me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to get inspired by you, Andrew, and you, Camille, and these things are going to happen. And that's where we're kind of thinking.
I love it. I love it. Now, let me ask you this question before we go. Were you thinking about second locations, and would you have thought it was possible last year, the way things were going, to even entertain that idea?
I've always wanted to have more trucks. I always figured I could teach people how to cook burgers and make poutine, but honestly, it seemed like we were continually churning employees all the time. Churn. And you have a couple good ones, and and then something happened, life gets in the way, and off they go. And you got to start again and again and again, and you're continually starting over. And at some point, I just figured, okay, I either dedicate myself to this one trailer, and this is my life now, or we got to change some stuff. So, they say if you want to change some stuff in your life, you got to change some stuff in your life. So we changed some stuff, and here we are.
Beautiful. I absolutely love it. And I also wanted to point out that Scott actually took the risk of jumping in to our program when he wasn't even open. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to take the leap. We are going to go all in on this. And I'm just consistently impressed with what's happened and where the business is now versus where it was. And I would like to take all the credit, but hands down, Scott is the man. And I absolutely have loved seeing
and my staff, Andrew. Don't
fair enough. And all of your team as well. But honestly, I'm super impressed by that. And I know that this will inspire some other truck owners or people who, even have brick and mortars. And they're like, hey, they're probably feeling the same things, the churn of the staff, not being able to get out of the kitchen and wanting to be able to drive the revenue and handle that volume and actually be able to have some time at home with their family. And so I know that this will speak to them in a bunch of ways. So I just wanted to thank you for your time. And, if
you're very welcome. You're very welcome, Andrew. You know what Albert Einstein once said?
What's that?
He said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yep.
Absolutely. The changes have been so great. Doing something different is thank you.
Awesome. So if you have any questions for Scott, what we can do is basically you can either respond with those. There might be a comment section below where you can ask some questions for him as well, but I'm sure Scott will be happy to point you in the right direction. And anyway, thank you so much for your time, Scott and Camille. And thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you soon.